All right, happy Wednesday afternoon. Today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about our inscribed quadrilaterals and some inscribed triangles. So our objective here is we're trying to solve for x, and here's the arc that intercepts x. But there are a couple things that we need to know in order to solve our inscribed polygon problems. So first thing we need to know is we've got to know there we go. If I have a circle with an inscribed angle, so this angle here has its vertex on the circle. Let's call this A, B, C. If arc AC is 100 degrees, I know the inscribed angle that intercepts that arc has to be half of the arc measure, so that's got to be 50. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to know to solve any inscribed polygon problem. But on top of that, we need to know our theorem about these opposite angles. So anytime we have angles that are opposite each other in an inscribed polygon, they have to add to 180, or an inscribed quadrilateral. They have to add to 180. So let's find our opposite angles here. So M is opposite of D, N is opposite of L. So 84 and M have to add to 180, so this must be 96. And L has to add with 74 to get 180, so this must be 106 degrees. All right. Now, what I would suggest doing is, anytime you're solving a problem like this, look for an arc you already have. So we've already got 82. Now, I don't know what DL is because I'm not sure what X is, but I know what 82 is. So start with whatever arc you've got, and then what you want to do is you can go either direction and solve for the other arc measure. So let's start with DNM first. Okay, and what angle is going to intercept DNM? We can just look at what letter is not being used in that arc name. So DNM, the only letter not being used here is L. And sure enough, L intercepts that arc. L has its endpoints at D and M. I should probably use a better color than that. Let's go with orange. So I know D and M must be 2 times 106. 106 is the inscribed angle. The arc has to be double that. So this has to be 212 degrees. Now, how do I find this missing piece here? This missing arc DN, if I know the whole thing is 212? Well, I can take 212 and subtract 82 to get 130 degrees. So 130 must add with 82 to get me 212, and sure enough it does. And you know what, let's go the other direction now, and let's solve for LM. Or you know what, no, let's solve for X now. And then we'll go the other direction, we'll do the other way. Because it really doesn't matter, you could have gone, with 82, and you could have done this arc LM instead, could have done that, but you know, we just chose to go the other direction. Really doesn't matter which way you go. So, which angle is going to intercept arc LDN? What letter's not being used? That's got to be M. So here, sure enough, if we draw that angle, its endpoints are at L and N. So 96, or the angle whose vertex is at M, has to intercept that big arc. And once again, the whole arc must be twice the size of the angle. So this pink arc must be 192 degrees. So let's stop here and look at our two pieces. So 130 and 3x minus 20 have to add together to get me 192. So I can say 130, and if I put that together with 3x plus 20, I must get 192. And then we can combine some like terms. So 3x plus 150 is 192, or 3x is, what is that, 42. So x must be 14. So that's one way we could go about solving this. Let's go the other direction now. And again, always feel free to pause the video or rewind or do whatever you need to do. So we started off with 82, right? And we went left to DN, but let's go the other direction here. And now, what angle is intercepting arc LMN? It's the only letter not being used. So D is intercepting that arc. So LD N is intercepting the yellow arc here. So this whole yellow arc must be twice the measure of 84, so it must be 168 degrees. So how do I find this missing piece? I can take 168 and subtract 82 to get 86. And the reason why we didn't go this direction in the first place, and it will get you the same answer, it's just a little bit more work is all. Because now I've got this pink arc. So if we had gone this direction, I wouldn't know that's 130 right now. So now I've got this pink arc, and the angle that's intercepting that arc here is N. So I know the pink arc must be twice the size of 74, or 148. So same thing, we know that 3x plus 20, one part of it, add the other part, must get me the whole arc measure. So 3x plus 106 gets me 148. And then we get the same equation in this step. 3x is 42 and x is 14. So what you're always looking for, your first step should be, identify what arc do you have. In this case, we had this arc. We knew that arc. I didn't know what x was yet, but I knew 82 was arc MN. And then find your opposite angles, add to 180, opposite angles, add to 180. And we can solve from there. So let's try this one. So start with your known arc, 126, and then find the opposite angles that you can, and see how you can solve from there. So see if you can get that one for me. So pause your video here and see how far you can get. All right, so 80 plus this opposite angle must be 180. So this has to be 100. And now let's see, what arc does this 100-degree angle intercept? And that's pretty convenient there. That was nice of them. So it intercepts that whole arc, everything that we've got. And now, what do I know about arc BAR or RAB? It's got to be double the inscribed angle. So 200 degrees must be 126 plus 23x plus 5. So 200 must be 131 plus 23x. So 69 is 23x, and x is 3. And that's really the only way we could have done that one. You know, 11's pretty interesting. Let's try 11. So again, pause your video here, rewind if you need to, and start with what you're given. So you're given this angle. You're given this arc, rather. This whole arc is what you're given. And see if you can solve for x. All right, so we're given that arc, and then this is the angle here that intercepts the arc. That was nice enough of them. So 164 plus 62 gets me the whole arc is 226. And I know that's got to be double this, so 56x plus 1, double that is 226, or 112x plus 2 is 226, 112x is 224, x is 2. And this is a more difficult one, so let's start with what we know. So what do we know here? What are some numbers that we're given? So I'm given 114, I'm given 97, and I'm given 104. All right. So here's 97. Now, which part is being intercepted by 97? It's this orange part, 114, up here. So let's just extend this orange part to cover the whole arc that's being intercepted by W. So 97 intercepts that whole thing. And I know 97, got to double that to get 194 for the whole giant arc XPV, that major arc. And now how do I find PX? Well, I know PX has to add with 114 to get 194. So 194 minus 114 is 80. Okay, but I still don't know a whole lot about x. And this is where it's going to get kind of interesting. Don't forget about your whole circle. What does a whole circle add to? So my whole circle needs to add to 360. All right, now let's figure out, I need to find just this little piece here. So 360, I can take away 114, I can take away 80, take away 104, take away 114, take away 80, take away 104 to get 62. All right. So, as of right now, I still don't know x, but x is this angle here. So let's see. What does x, or what does that angle intercept rather? What arc does that angle intercept? If I connect those endpoints, then 114 plus 62 is 176 degrees. And I know that's got to be double this inscribed angle. So double 8x plus 8, or 2 times 8x plus 8 equals 176. So 16x plus 16, don't forget to distribute. It's 176 minus 16 on both sides. 16x is 160, and x is 10. So really what you're trying to do here is start with whatever you're given. Start with any numbers you're given. So our first step here is we just started with things that we knew for sure. I knew 97, and I was lucky enough to have this arc here. I had 114. I didn't know what that was, but I could solve for it because the whole thing had to be 194, had to be double, or 2 times bigger than 97. So I started with that thing that I knew. And then I said, well, I'm not much closer to solving for x, but what's another thing I could find? And it's the rest of the circle. So what's a whole circle? A whole circle's 360. And once we did that, it was, pretty close to a final answer. We just needed to know that our inscribed angle is half of the arc it intercepts. So you've got to know your 360 is a whole circle. You've got to know inscribed angles are half. And then again, just look for things that you know. Ooh, so this is a good one. I want you to solve for this angle here first, and then solve for x. So pause the video, solve for z first, and then solve for x. So here I've got this arc is 6492, gives me 156. Then this angle's got to be half, which is 78. And now how in the world do I find the opposite angle? What do I know about opposite angles? They've got to add to something, in this case 180. So this has to be 102 degrees. Again, we didn't solve for x first, but I knew this arc JY, that was given to me, and then I could find z pretty quickly from there. So 78 and 102. I want you to pause the video, and first of all, I want you to look at what your known values are. So here are some known values. Solve for x, and then solve for z now. So pause your video, solve for x, solve for z. So this whole arc is 230. X is half of 230 is 115. It's got to add to 180 with z, which means that z's got to be 65 degrees. And then, of course, these two have to add to 180, so what's y? It's got to be 93 degrees. And here, of course, anytime you see a triangle that goes through the middle of the circle, it's cutting the circle in half, this diameter, anytime a triangle's got a diameter as one of its sides, you've got to have a right triangle. Because again, this whole arc is 180. So your angle that's intercepting the arc must be half.